When it came to ranking the darkest and scariest Thomas adaptations, I had a brief moment where I thought about how far can fans and creators push the boundaries with what they can write, what they can record, and what they can adapt into a story. And it got me wondering, just how far can fans actually push it and make it work in some way? And that leads us to today's video. Take subject matter such as scrap. It's horrifying to a sentient locomotive. Or how about, instead of just being scrapped in general, the idea of rusting away, being barely alive and in constant pain is worse. Like what was displayed in Where the Bad Engines Go by Daylight 3 and The Forgotten Engine. That, is a pretty dark fate, but in the most fucked up way possible, it was a justified fate for these characters that were involved. Not knowing what the other engines did, but knowing what Robert did to his brother, it seemed totally justified that he would get punished this way.
For him to leave. Good engines don't lie. Good engines don't lie. Good engines don't lie.
Or we could take real-world tragedy and mix it in. In adaptations like Down the Hill, which is written by the wonderfully talented Barry Truck, where Percy is derailed by an evil truck and crashes into a cottage, tragically killing a family. Even though this was a tragic accident, it's still a very dark subject matter. Even darker than that, and just how real it is a story like A Spirited Journey, which was written by the Jolly Mariner. This particular adaptation was adapted by the German Sodor, and I have reviewed it already, but The Spirited Journey, where is journey and backstory, is where we learn about a small child and,
Many years ago, a little girl boarded one of my evening trains by herself, along with a shady character.
Yeah, that's really sad and cold-blooded, but unfortunately, this does actually happen for real. With that being said, how far do creators push the subject matter and story of these adaptations? And I'm not just talking about specifically these creators, and especially the ones I reviewed. I'm going to be covering all grounds here, so audio and written content counts. So let's explore a little bit. Thomas and the Children is a famous or infamous short story creepypasta written by an anonymous user who tells the story of a child receiving a Thomas DVD from his father. His father is in his study. The child comes running to him with tears in his eyes, telling him, "Why did Thomas kill all the children?" The father then watches the video only for him to see where the story takes a dark turn. Thomas purposely runs into Bertie, who is stuck on a level crossing, killing his passengers and also killing the passengers in the coaches, all of them being kids. The DVD showed various figurine viscera and gore, leaving the father in the story very horrified. This is a famous one, and it's truly a dark subject matter, and it's kind of like a lost episode sort of creepypasta thing, which is kind of cool. But this one is not as dark as we go further into this video. What if I said it does get a little darker and a bit more touchy subject matter into an extremely very strange adaptation? There's a few other stories that are absolutely insane, and one of them was made by Little Westerner Productions, the same user who created the Out of Sight adaptation that I've reviewed. And from his feedback and recollection of this specific adaptation called The Enthusiast, he regrets making it. Now, I'm not going to make fun or even talk down on Little Westerner Productions about it. Lots of people make mistakes and write something that's too graphic or in poor taste, but out of curiosity, I had to look it up, and I found a re-upload just to see what he was talking about, and among other things, what other people were talking about. And, well,
My God, isn't he beautiful? Well, you are the first person to ever convince us for an up-close and personal look at our James.
it's fucking creepy as hell. But I gotta admit this, it's actually kind of good. Because this is a very real world thing going on here, and I'll explain it. There are many people who have latched onto a certain celebrity and have completely lost their minds obsessing over them. And this is psychologically damaging levels of obsession. But it's real. This does fucking happen. There are people who are obsessed with cartoon characters that aren't real, and I get obsessed to the point that they do something extremely graphic and lethal. This in particular, especially from the plot, and without even reading the context of Little Westerner's reply on my other video, I already knew what this whole story was based off of in real life. This was a real case of celebrity obsession. This was a subject called Ricardo Lopez, who obsessed over the Icelandic singer and songwriter Björk. Lopez even documented his obsession with her, and throughout them you could see his mental state start to deteriorate, even threatening to send a bomb to Björk before filming his own. The bomb never reached Björk, but his obsession story hit the internet long after this happened, as well as the tapes, and I don't recommend Googling it. So you, viewer, stop fucking typing right now. Stop it. You do not want to look this up. I know LWP has regrets about writing the story, but it's actually not that bad. In fact, I would call it tame, and something like this could actually work in this universe, but the execution is not great. That's my criticism. The execution here is pretty poor, and the ending very melancholic and not really that great either. So, yeah. But I thought it was not that bad. So, a crazy James-obsessed fan hijacking and even implying SA wasn't dark and crazy enough. What could really be taking it too far? Like, what can really be considered taking it too far? And just on a side note here, before I get into what I have just read, the user that posted this has been banned off of the platform that he even typed this up on. And my dumbass, being the dumbass that it was, noticing that this specific writing did not have many upvotes on Reddit, just figured that it would still be there the next day when I started recording this video. And so I didn't even bother to take screenshots. I finished the script yesterday and just went on with my afternoon and fell asleep. So now this user has been banned from Reddit, and the original post has been removed by Reddit admins, which I can only say good on Reddit admins for doing something right for the first time, because this was just so vile and disgusting. I'm going to do my best to summarize it, and I'm going to be treading very lightly here because, yes, it did get very graphic. Let me be clear on one thing before we get into this written story. Smut is always going to be a thing on the internet, and trust me, I know. I've seen the worst of it and cringed so hard it feels like someone's stabbing me. But even with sentient trains like Thomas, and I think after digging through forums for what felt like an eternity, even though it was only about 15 minutes, I think I found the absolute worst, god-awful, darkest, and most disturbing short creepypasta for Thomas I've ever read in my fucking life. I'm going to do my best here to summarize this and censor it as much as I can because, yes, it is that graphic in detail. The story is told from a human perspective, about a man who is talking fondly about his son Thomas. He's a widowed father and lives within the vicinity of Mayfleet Station. He is the proud father of 7-year-old Thomas, his name being taken after the blue tank engine that stops at the station. After the boy's mother died, the two have bonded closer, and were always taking trips together aboard Thomas's train. The boy laughed and sang the theme song throughout their journeys, and Thomas the Tank Engine himself felt happy for the boy. However, as months went on with these weekend trips, the boy became more and more uneasy around his father. But they still boarded Thomas's train for their weekends. Whenever they left, however, the boy would look into Thomas's face with a distant expression in his eyes and a single tear on his cheek as the father pushed him home to his car. Thomas the Tank Engine began to notice this, and soon it becomes clear to him. As more and more time went on, the same routine would repeat itself, except for one time where the father came in and smelled of alcohol, and the boy, who was completely pale in the eyes, with no expression on his face, had visible bruises around his neck. As if the subject matter didn't already take a dark turn, it takes a darker turn, and this is where it gets really bad. And I honestly felt while reading this, not only disgust, but thought of my own personal experiences as a child that affected me the same way. I did make a video on that, by the way back when I first started this channel, but it's totally fucking different from this. This is just insanity. So just bear with me here. The routine repeated itself again. The father smelled of alcohol and had quite shockingly painted his own face blue, and his son looked emotionless and sad, with more visible bruises around his neck, and something more awful. As the boy and his father departed the coach and walked away, Thomas noticed the back of the boy's shorts were stained with blood. Thomas the Tank Engine was returning to the sheds one night after helping Percy with the mail train. As he approached the level crossing, he thought he could see a shadow on the line. He was traveling quite fast, but it wasn't until it was too late that he realized what it was. As Thomas approached the crossing at speed, he saw the boy again, with his father's arm around his throat, and the father completely painted blue with no clothes on. Thomas struck the two of them into a terrible scene. Both of them immediately died on impact. Police reports reached the public and found out that after the boy's mother died, the father, a repressive man, became obsessed with his son Thomas, and Thomas the Tank Engine to a lethal degree. I don't think I need to state what the father did to his son out loud, and I'm not even going to try, but his obsession culminated with Thomas into a murder / and that's it. The story just ends. There is nothing fucking else. What the fuck? So when I found this on Reddit, and by the time I made this video and began recording it today, it was gone, along with the user who created it. Still, he was anonymous, not that that really fucking matters, but my dumbass did not take screenshots of it, probably because it only had 2 upvotes, and I thought it wouldn't attract much attention the previous day. I figured it would just be there after I finished the script, but nope, it's gone. Now, what my thoughts were on this? First of all, just trying to read this fucking thing was a challenge. Not for the subject matter, even though that's fucking disgusting and a ridiculous plot, but the grammatical errors were insane. It's like someone typed this with their feet and hoped it made sense. Now, this ridiculous plot and the subject matter here is miles over the fucking line. Miles. I might even say light years over the line, and it just should not exist. And thankfully, Reddit admins did something right for once and got rid of it. This story looks like it was written by someone older who needs their hard drive examined by a crime scene unit, or some kid who thought he was being cool, dark, and edgy and wrote the most outrageous and raunchy story regarding Thomas the fucking Tank Engine on this planet. This was probably the most disgusting and most vile shit I've ever read in my life. And there's really not a lot more to say about it. That's all for this video. I got no more words.
He had seen everything.